Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a top 16 breakdown for the Latin American September regionals that happened this past month. This happened actually during September 23rd and 24th, so the same like release weekend of the set as well. So this was kind of a day one format for this event, and it is a little bit delayed from when the event happened, but I really do appreciate having the list, and big shout outs to Diego for getting those for us. So he did put a Google Drive together with all of them, and he did the entirety of top 32 for this one as well. I did top 16 and then unique deck list for the top 32 as well. And he also did do a video there. If you guys want to follow him, make sure to hit the description and hit the hit his channel there. Make sure to hit that follow for him as well. Would not be able to make this video without him, and I do really appreciate it. So, but jumping on into this event too, is 512 players with 9 rounds of Swiss into this top 16 that we see here today, and there were 5 Trafalgar Laws, with one of them taking the event, 5 Charlotte Katakuris, 3 Newgates, 2 Dofis, and a Crocodile. And in the top 32, with some unique 7-2s, we did have a Rebecca as well as a Eustass Captain Kid. So nothing too crazy, I'd say. Again, this was day one for this format, so I think a lot of people were running more so of the decks that have been working and less of like the new decks from either a supply issue or from an availability issue as well. But so that's kind of what we have for this one. Pretty much happening the same time as Knoxville was happening from PPG. So we're going to go over the top placing list for each one of these archetypes, starting off with the first place of the Trafalgar Law. And so this list, I feel like I'm literally running out of things to say about Trafalgar Law. Generically, look at this top row. This is the staples for what you run for it. Some people run like 2 or 3 beige, maybe 4, 2 or 3 Namis of the star deck one. That's fine. Sanji's been kind of like the 2K to kind of go towards if you weren't running already, just because there are just so many decks that kind of are more control-y at times, that being able to draw a card from your life from this is fantastic. Like the card draw is really all you need from it, since you do need the setup. And then everything else pretty standard. Brooks, Nico Robbins, and a Vista. That's kind of a choice from here. 4 Zoros, which is kind of not everyone runs 4. Usually like a 2 or 3, but 4 is a lot. And then 2 Rush Luffy's, which I think have been kind of more popular lately. This card again, being able to get around blockers and kind of go for game by itself is pretty strong, especially since Trafalgar Law can cheat it out using its own effects and get like the boost from it too, which is great. So that's kind of what we've been seeing for Law. She pretty much OP03 into OP04. Not a lot of change, but still a very good deck. So that is the list there. And then going into Charlotte Katakuri, this was, this is a pretty basic list too that I've been seeing generically. The new cards that we add, we have Amande, which I do like this card, and I think against Trafalgar Law it can kind of slow them down at times. It's you will play this on 3, use the activate main to get rid of some of their 1-drops that they think they are safe. You can also do this against Zoro as well, and worst case, it's a 2K that you can find off of all of your your searches for it. We used to have you have to run Pudding because we didn't have as many 2Ks, but since Pudding can't find Pudding, it was had some issues with it, but very strong from that sense. And again, just a 2K. And you see the Parasparrow, 2 copies of Cracker, which again, I don't think this card is as needed in this format. Traditionally, I think it's just the double attack doesn't come up as much, and we don't really care about playing stuff off of our life generically as much either. We just kind of have better effects than the kind of generic tempo for it, but 2 copies is fine. Sanji, we definitely run though. This card's been obviously a powerhouse since release, being able to be a blocker, but also being out, if you hit this out of your life, you can either block the last attack that your opponent's going to be going for, or the same thing as Charlotte Cracker, where it's just 1 more body on the board, and that's kind of important for you. So obviously Sanji's a staple for this. And then your ratios for Randolph and Parasparrow, the 5/7 6/8 vanillas are very good bodies to have on the board. They're generically hard to remove in traditional formats, or at least they're kind of expensive to remove too. And again, they're 1Ks, and they're both searchable because they're both Big Mom Pirates. Very strong additions to the deck and have been staples. I usually like to run more Randolphs and 2 or 3 Parasparrow, but 2 4. I don't know. What are your own kind of ratios for this? I kind of like the 5 and then a little bit of the 4, but I can see the other way. A 6/8, it's just really good stats, and generically that's kind of the next level of hard to remove, especially if you already want to go second. like this, that's just very strong for you. 2 copies of 7-drop Lin, 4 copies of 10-drop, and 3 copies of Charlotte Katakuri. And of course, this has been just a really popular card, and I would say it's been more popular in OP04 compared to OP03. I think the meta is like potentially a little bit slower. The control aspects is fantastic, but also being able to put stuff back into your life is very strong as well. So that's kind of the list. I'd say this is generically just what we've been seeing for Charlotte Katakuri. Just some small ratio changes here and there, but generally very strong. So that is the list on this one. And then next up we have the starter deck Crocodile, which has been getting more popular, especially compared to the last 2 formats where I think blue Dofi was like the generic leader for the color. But Crocodile being able to kind of take better advantage of cards like Red Rock, which we got obviously from this set, and just generic removal. I do like the Dragon Twist Demolition Breath. Being able to use this for like a 2-drop 4K counter is fantastic. The trigger in life is pretty good too. And if you're playing against Trafalgar Law and Zoro, like being able to get like a free removal out of something like that, I think is good. This one also wasn't running the Sentomaru package, which is pretty interesting in that sense. Most builds that I have been seeing do kind of lean for the Sentomaru just for like the early advantage, and then that means that you can kind of have a board and still remove cards with 3000 Worlds and Gum Gum Red Rock. Sables I haven't really seen in a long time, but it is moderately strong too for what it is, being able to return something that costs 7 or less back to the owner's hand, and being able to activate the full power from from your life is very good. Very good, like better removal from life triggers than like Red Rock, which is only a 4 or less, and 3000 Worlds, which is only 3 or less, but they do get to return to the bottom of your opponent's deck, so that's better on that side. We have like the tempo cards like Zeph, 4 copies of Solga King, and then also the 3 copies of Mihawk and 3 copies of the new Kaido as well. And 3 is a little expensive for me, especially since we're not running as many copies of like if we were playing like Gum Gum Rains or ways to get this out of our hand, it'd be good, but we really don't have like ways to cycle a lot outside of like a Kaya or like a Sasaki. But I do agree that if this hits the board, you have such a good chance of winning if you're stabilizing because of it. It's a 10-drop 12k, so outside of the mirror, there's a lot of hard ways for your opponent to remove it, and being able to get rid of potentially 2 cards from your opponent's board, and then using our Crocodile effect to use the -4 to return a 5 or less. So a 3, a 5, and an 8 off your opponent's board is great removal, and something that we really don't have any like benchmark for any other deck. So I do agree it's powerful. Just kind of it's rough when this is stuck in your hand and your opponent's too aggressive for you there. So last new card is Alti, which is good on curve, being able to get rid of some 2s or less to the bottom of their opponent's deck. And also kind of you can play Kaya early if you need to, and then you can put it back in your hand with Alti if you want to kind of get some of that like early cycle, or if your hand's kind of rough there too. So that's the list here, and congratulations to our blue Croc player. And the next up we have the Film Dofi, which generically I think has been good and understood since release. On this was the best way to build this deck, even though we do have our own Donquixote Doflamingo archetype in the set. The really only good cards from that are the Sugar, being able to use this to rest your opponent's card, but also be kind of obnoxious to prevent it kind of makes your opponent play around it based on how the opponent's turn effect works. So I think that is a really kind of good card for usually like 3 is like the magic number I see most people, but if you need a rest a blocker to go for game, it's very good there. And then also the 10-drop Donquixote Doflamingo, which is a really good game ender, or kind of like it changes the dynamic of the game, which is really interesting. And if your opponent doesn't play around it, you can kind of get some good advantage for you there. So, and then for our events, we're only running green events, no copies of Thunder Bagua. We're also not running any copies of like Queen, so like the -1 is only from the Guild Chicero, which we are running 4 copies, which is quite a bit. But we are doing like almost like max restand, so 4 copies of Spiderweb, as well as 3 copies of Paradise Waterfall. So if we are able to establish a Luffy, we can block with Luffy, Paradise Waterfall, bring it back, and then use Spiderweb, bring it back, and just whatever the case kind of ends for. And then also 2 whole copies of The Weak Do Not Have the Right to Choose How They Die, which generally I only see like 1 tech choice of it, so to see 2 is pretty out there as well. A single copy of Diamante, which can get like a restand, which is nice, and then Baccarat and Brook. So we do kind of have like a little bit of the the cascade of play Luffy, play Brook, to play Baccarat or Nami, so that kind of stuff. No 4-drop Zoros, 4 Utas, and then kind of the Shiki, Tony Chopper, and Buena Vista for our 2K. So a little bit more of a unique list on some of the card choices and ratios, and congratulations to our Dofi player here. And then we also have Newgate, which I think this is the first time in a minute where like it's we're halfway through this video approximately, and Newgate just finally got kind of mentioned as a deck list, so that's kind of interesting. I know like a lot of people are kind of understanding where he fits in this meta. I still think he's very strong, and I don't think he's going away. And I think a lot of people are kind of deciding, is he in a good spot? Can we figure out, how is he really doing in this format in general? So, but we do see that he is pretty much functioning the same, at least this version of it. This is the Strawbeard variant of it, and you kind of can tell if someone uses it, based on their 1-drop, if it's either Nami or Izo. So since we're using Nami, we can find Tony Chopper. We have a couple 2Ks, including the Sanji and Brook, and the 3-drop Monkey D. Luffy. And then the 4-drop vanillas of Luffy and Frankie, so we can find those on curve off the Nami. We also do have the Marco 5-drop Luffy as well, and just kind of the generic package. And there is also 4 copies of Gum Gum Red Hawk, which I do think this is interesting because in the Knoxville event that was happening at the same time, that was kind of the standard for a lot of the topping decks, and that was something that I wasn't seeing in Strawbeard before OP04. So to see, at 2 different regionals that maybe they had some crosstalk, but I don't think they did, kind of decide on the same thing, that Red Hawk is like the way to go for this deck to help you probably for Zoro, and Law is really interesting that they both kind of came to that conclusion. So that is the list there. Congratulations to our Newgate player. And then we do have Rebecca, which is the one of the newer leaders, and I do think that Rebecca is something that takes a lot of time to kind of grind and kind of figure out how this deck works and how to do well with it. I do think that it's something that will probably get better as people figure that out and we continue through this meta, and maybe we'll eclipse Dofi. We'll see. I think Dofi's at least like the most straightforward leader from the new set from OP04, but we'll see if people are able to kind of catch up with their skills and how they can work with Rebecca in general. So there's not a lot of kind of diversity in deck building because we do have to run a lot of the Dressrosa cards in general, just based on how the activate main from Rebecca works for this deck. We do kind of have like the MVPs. Kairos is very obnoxious. We have Orlumbus being able to put a lot of things into range that otherwise wouldn't be, with 3,000 Worlds, and also Truno as well. I've kind of decided that 3,000 Worlds is just the better one. We can run Red Rock, but Orlumbus really just puts a lot of stuff in range that as long as we see both, we're usually in a good enough spot and not usually kind of worth the spots. Truno being able to get like the better removal too, like with Orlumbus can remove anything in the game, which is quite nice. 3 Gum Gum, King Kong Gun, and then also 4 of the 7-drop Luffy. Obviously, a lot of people I think are finding success of not finding like going as much as for tempo, but more of like a stall deck that is eventually able to kind of go for your OTK with the 7-drop Luffy, and the removal that this gets is really unique with being able to attack active characters and kind of everything else. So I do think again, Rebecca might be getting better as people kind of figure out how to play it and the best way to kind of tackle this meta, but we'll have to see if that's true. And congratulations to our Rebecca player here. And the last deck of the day is going to be the film Eustass Kid, the inaugural film leader from a couple sets ago. He's still kicking, it seems, with a lot of the package being exactly the same. No new cards from this one. This is 100% an OP02 deck. I think it's OP02, right, which is still the film stuff. So we do also have the promo Bart in this one, which I am surprised that we don't see more of this in the Dofi list, just at like a 2 of copy, because it can help you like get some time to either like swing with something or like being able to use it to kind of be in conjunction with her Nami to restand it. I think all that kind of stuff can be very strong for this guy. Even like a way to just restand our Luffy if needed. Obviously, we can use it with Spiderweb as well, and we do get the defensive power for it, but I do think this is somewhat better for that and can be helpful. So I do like this, 2 copies when we're looking at like the film list for Dofi. So maybe that's going to see that, but otherwise we've been seeing this list for quite a bit. It does have a lot of pressure with it, and just the fact that we do have a double attack leader is very strong, especially since we do get like the natural kind of card draw off the Nami, and then we get to use Luffy to then play either Brook and Nami or just Zoro itself. There's just a lot of good cards to play off these as well. So not much more to say. Congratulations to our Eustass Kid player there, and that's going to be it. So if you guys want any of these deck lists, they're here on my website, which is linked in the description, as well as thanks again to Diego for providing the list and having their own breakdown. Make sure to follow them on YouTube as well. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.